Hello everybody, my name is Denny Giannetti, and today I want to talk about the biggest mistake a lot of people make when buying a new bike. Let's get into it. Eddie, and this is going to be kind of a bike check video, but one thing I want to highlight here is big mistake that people make when buying bikes. I've made it a bunch of times, and I'm hoping other people can avoid it. This is my 2024 Intense Alloy Taser Expert, but it kinda isn't. What do I mean by that? So when I bought it, I bought it as the Expert. However, I have since upgraded it to the Pro, and I didn't buy a package or anything. I just bought different parts, and that's kind of the main thing that I want to highlight here, is buying a lesser bike and then inevitably wasting more money to bump it up to the next bike. Bought this bike, it was 160, 155. Had a DVO Diamond E3 up front and a Topaz E3 in the rear, also DVO. Now, it's got a Fox 38 170 Performance E-tuned, and I have a 155 RockShox Super Deluxe. I've ended up upgrading the stem, upgrading the dropper post because it broke on me. Essentially, the only things I haven't changed on this are the wheels and the brakes. Everything else I've essentially upgraded. Obviously, I left the seat or whatever. But my point is when I bought this bike, I bought it because it was an entry-level bike. So I have the bike set up the way I want it now. However, initially, when I bought it at first, I didn't get the Pro model because it was about $1,000 more expensive, and I just said, you know, I'm gonna go with the entry level. And now, about $1,000 more, maybe a little more, I have essentially one of the same parts on this. So this is now essentially an Alloy Pro. I think sometimes when people go to buy the bike, they only see the bottom line. And it's kind of what I did. I already had my Enduro bike, and I saw that this bike was on sale. I got the original bike, which I'll post the listing here somewhere, for less than $5 grand shipped out the door, which is great for a full powered e-bike. But inevitably, things went wrong. I wasn't happy with it, and I've upgraded. And it probably has cost me more money in the long run than just buying the nicer model. And I understand, you know, if, you know, everybody's money situation is different. I completely understand that. And listen, if you can only get an entry-level bike, or you only want an entry-level bike, that's okay. But I do think paying attention to that outside line stinks. Paying attention to the specs and maybe going up a little bit is probably wise. Also, your sizing. I have the Enduro bike, the Tracer, and this is the Taser. And I sort of just assumed they're the same sizes. They're not. This is a little bit bigger, and I just had to get a different stem because the reach was too big, and now the bike feels like it should. It feels poppy. So finally, I'm real happy with the bike. You know, it is the higher end now. It is essentially the Pro, because on top of all of the components upgrades, I bought a new battery, because the initial battery was 500 watts, and I'm a bigger guy. I weigh about 230. I was a former fullback in my past life, but it wasn't enough, and I felt like I was wanting more. So I wound up upgrading to the 640, and now that is literally everything except for, I think, maybe the brakes on this is just the Pro, and I think maybe they have the same anyway. I'd have to look. Me too. As I'm like pedaling up here, I keep thinking of other things I've upgraded. Like I have a better derailleur now too from the one I bought. Like this bike is not the same bike as I bought it. Oh, unsurprisingly, I'm gonna have to replace the cranks because I bent one because I ride like a bull in a china shop. Talk about the things I actually like. This thing is set up 170, 155, and I think that's perfect for the e-bike because it's got enough up front to just plow through whatever you want, but it's playful enough because it's also mulleted, where it's playful enough in the rear where you can kind of throw it around. And especially now that I've got it the correct stem height, this thing just absolutely plays around for a bike that weighs probably 50, 70 pounds. So I think that is, in fact, the ideal setup for the e-bike. This back brake is fading. There's a ton of advantages to this, the 170, 155, 150, because you have so much of the weight on the motor, and being able to kind of have a little bit more play, maybe be a little stiffer, is, I think, a huge benefit. And I would recommend this kind of setup for anybody looking for an e-bike. You know, I think the 170 is kind of your real aggressive e-bike kind of sweet spot. So when you're buying that new bike, or you're buying a bike in general, just make sure you do your research. Is, I think, kind of more or less where I'm at right now. I really didn't on this. I didn't know, and I wouldn't say it was because, you know, I didn't care or whatever, but I just kind of didn't know. So don't be afraid to ask people who, you know, who know. That's probably what I should have done. But instead, I got a little impulsive and I bought the bike. Now, I don't pay anybody's bills except for my own, and I don't know what your money situation's like. So, listen, if you want the entry-level bike, that's what sounds good to you, that's what you get. This is concentration clutch. That's what you get. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's all you want. But make sure you do your research on it. Because when I was buying this bike, like I had said, I just saw, oh yeah, that'll be good, I want an e-bike. And realistically, by the time it was all said and done, with all the time, effort, labor, I probably should have just went with the higher model. And I've learned that when I just bought my downhill bike. It is used, but I went for something with factory suspension, you know, something I wanted. So be honest with yourself, and at the same time too, just ask if you don't know, because like I always say, I ride them, I don't fix them, I don't know anything about tech. But see, this isn't just for e-bikes, it's for anything in general, but you know, just make sure you do your homework, because when I bought bikes, when I bought this bike a year ago, didn't really know much. I still don't know that much. So ultimately, when it comes to, you know, buying a bike and, you know, especially getting one you're maybe not super familiar with. You know, I was never familiar with e-bikes. Do your research, but more importantly, ask people if you don't know, because it didn't really dawn on me. Like, I knew a e-bike had a battery. I just didn't really, you know how much of a difference it made until I got one. So that's always good to know. Find somebody, you know, who might have one, and you know, pick their brain a little bit. Couldn't hurt. But it's also okay to, you know, be satisfied with the bike you have, and you know, not go overboard. So take it from me, if you know what you want, don't make the mistake and just buy the higher model, because inevitably you'll just get that one anyway.